Welcome back to Askewed Reviews, and today we are doing another fan request, and it is for the 1980 horror comedy thriller Motel Hell. Here is your trivia question for today. What is the name of the rock band that Vince and Ida kidnap? The answer will be at the end of this video. So at the beginning of this film, we get to meet Farmer Vincent Smith, played by Rory Calhoun. You see, Vincent owns a nice, quaint little motel called Motel Hello, although that pesky O just keeps flickering sometimes. Now, he also happens to be known as Farmer Vincent, who does smoked meats in the area and is well known for having the best meat around. Nancy Parsons, who plays Ida, is also Vince's sister and lives at the motel as well. Vince and Ida also have a younger sibling named Bruce, who is the local town sheriff. Vince and Ida work very well as a partnership, not only in running the motel, but also in setting up tricks and traps for people that they can catch either on the highway or at the motel. Their other passion project is their garden, which those people that they've caught and trapped become a part of. They feed and take care of these individuals until they're just right, and then they take them out of the ground and turn them into Farmer Vincent's meats. That is at least until one day when he catches a motorcycle. The driver ends up being put into the garden, but the young girl passenger, he ends up feeling almost sad, perhaps a connection to her, so he lets her live, but under the belief that her boyfriend has been killed in the accident. So Terry ends up sticking around the motel, and over a little bit of time even seems to become part of the family. And in one of the fastest examples I've ever seen of Stockholm Syndrome, she falls in love with Vince. So, with everything going so well for this family, will anyone be able to stop the carnage of Farmer Vincent? The film was originally going to be made by Universal, but they ended up feeling it was a bit too disturbing. So, when they dropped it, United Artists picked it up instead. Now, while briefly at Universal, Toby Hooper was actually going to be the director of the film, which would have been great as he did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I feel like this would have definitely been within his wheelhouse. But when Universal dropped it, Toby also left. At one point, Curtis Harrington was a possible director for the film as well. Kevin Connor ended up being the actual director for the film. And in fact, when he read the screenplay, it was originally much darker, more disturbing, and even had some bestiality in it. He asked if he could instead make it more of a dark comedy. The majority of the movie was filmed in Culver City, California, at the Culver Studios, also known then as the Laird International Studios. Most of the on-location parts were actually filmed near Santa Clarita, California, mainly at the Sable Ranch, where it actually doubled as the motel office, and a nearby stable doubled as the motel itself. Rory Calhoun does a fantastic job as Farmer Vincent. What's interesting, though, is the role was originally going to go to Harry Dean Stanton. One of my favorite parts of this film definitely has to be the on-screen chemistry between Calhoun and Parsons. They both did a wonderful job of making their characters feel believable. The character of Sheriff Bruce Smith was actually written for Paul Link, as he actually went to college and was good friends with the co-writer Robert Jaffe. Calhoun and Link do play brothers in this film, and it's not an impossibility, but did you happen to know that the two of them are actually 26 years apart in real life? Speaking of age, as I mentioned earlier, I thought it was a bit odd that the character of Terry went for Vince so quickly. But if you do look at the fact that the character of Boris is actually 60 years old in this, you can tell due to his gravestone, she actually is into older men. As you may or may not have seen in the credits, the character of Reverend Billy is played by radio DJ Wolfman Jack. Did you happen to recognize this member of the band? Well, this is John Ratzenberger, and I just find it funny that he would eventually become Cliff Clavin on the TV series Cheers only a few years after this. Can you imagine them looking at his previous history with this film and going, yeah, you're perfect for the mailman? The film that both Bruce and Terry are watching at the drive-in is an actual movie. It's from 1957, and it's called The Monster That Challenged the World. Near the end of the film, they have that fight scene which leads to dueling chainsaws. That whole sequence was not originally in the script, and it actually took 5 12-hour days to get that all put together. When the film was coming out, the horror magazine Fangoria actually gave them the cover. Unfortunately, the magazine ended up being recalled, and this is now one of the most expensive and rarest issues. Now, there's no real clue as to what exactly happened, whether or not it was poor sales or graphic nature, but if you do own this one, you can make a lot of money. So, this was only ever hinted at and never actually made or even really fully talked about, but at one point there was talks of there being a sequel called Return to Motel Hell. No idea what the plot would have been, though. Now, if you can't get enough of Motel Hell, I'm sure there will eventually be a remake in Hollywood, but in the meantime, there is actually a comic book series that you can check out right now. So when it comes to the film Motel Hell, I definitely recommend checking this out. It's a fun, creepy, weird little classic, and it definitely reminds me of movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and even things nowadays like X and Pearl. So if you like any of those, definitely check it out. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, what is the name of the rock band that Vince and Ida kidnap? The band is called Ivan and the Terribles. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. If there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And it takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent's Fritters.